also known as Holland, is located in northwestern Europe. It is bordered by the North Sea to the north and west, Germany to the east, and Belgium to the south. The 16 million people who live in the Netherlands speak Dutch and Frisian. Belgium is bordered by Luxembourg to the southeast, and France to the west and southwest. Belgium is one of the smallest countries in Europe, just about the size of the state of Maryland. Once part of the Netherlands, Belgium won its independence in 1830. Now it is one of Europe's most urbanized and densely populated nations. Belgium is home to over 10 million people who speak primarily Dutch and French. Twice the area of New Jersey, the Netherlands has 280 miles of coastline. This coastal expanse and its major rivers, including the Rhine, encouraged international trade and exploration throughout Dutch history. The city of Amsterdam is the capital of the Netherlands. In addition to being a major port and a center of the diamond cutting industry, Amsterdam is an artistic and historic center of Europe. Ethnically diverse, Amsterdam is home to more than 40 canals, which are flanked by streets and crossed by 400 bridges. Residents, visitors, and tourists alike travel its waterways in salon boats. Many old and picturesque houses line the canals. This one, on the Prinsengracht, is now a museum. But it was once the home of Anne Frank and her family. As Jews, the Franks hid inside during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands during World War II. The family stayed in a secret annex from 1942 until August 4th, 1944, when the Nazis discovered them. Anne Frank's diary of her family's 2 years of hiding is a classic of literature. Most of the city's Jewish residents disappeared into Nazi concentration camps. Amsterdam is well known for political and social activism. So the city that is more than 700 years old is a living museum and a thriving modern metropolis.
So you can see from watching the video about the Netherlands that water is kind of one of the things that they have to deal with in Europe a lot of times. In fact, a lot of cities in Europe, not just Amsterdam, are built on canals. A lot of major cities in Europe are on canals, and specifically a lot of capitals. So why do you think that probably is? What is it that makes people build cities on riverways? Here's some examples of capitals on the rivers. London is on the Thames. Paris is on the Seine. Prague is on the Vltava. Budapest is on the Danube. Moscow is on the Moscow River. Berlin is on the Spree. Rome is on the Tiber. And Vienna is also on the Danube. So you can probably figure out that most places are located on the rivers. You could put there the lifeline. You could put there a major source of transportation and trade. Obviously, it made contact between cultures very easy. Okay, you're going to label on your maps next mountains and peaks. We're going to start with the longest range. That is the Alps. You can see right there on the screen, they start in northern Italy. They run through the Balkan or through the eastern portion of Europe. These are actually what we call the Dinaric Alps. We just label the Alps. Okay, the Pyrenees Mountains are right here. They form the border between Spain and France. There's also on your map, you have to label a bunch of these microstates. It's one of the things about the map I don't like to. There are 5 microstates in Europe. That means they're what I call dot states. They're not very big on a map, and that's what they look like to me as a dot. One of those is in the Pyrenees. That is Andorra. It's in right here in the Pyrenees Mountains. Monaco is another one that's right here on the border of France, on the Mediterranean. Vatican City is actually within the city of Rome, but because the Pope, that's his domain, he has technically his own country. San Marino is actually in Italy as well. It's on this side. Liechtenstein is on the border between Switzerland and Austria. And then really not a microstate, but it's not very big either, is Luxembourg, which is right here. So there's a lot of them. Okay, you need to label the Apennine Mountains. They split Italy in half. Okay, we don't label the Dinaric Alps. We do label the Carpathians. They're the mountains on your map that are to the farthest north and east. And then finally, you don't see them on here. The Balkans are right in here on your map. That's the last set. Okay, none of these mountains are really very tall, comparatively speaking. Tallest peak in the Alps is just shy of 16,000 feet. So they're not tall compared to, like, let's say Mount Everest and Himalayas is close to 30,000 feet. The Alps are very rugged though. They go straight up. Literally, you'll see a picture of that here in a minute. Um, they are pretty rocky. In fact, in the wintertime, a lot of people fall to their death trying to climb the Alps because they can't see where they're going, and it's pretty dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So there's a big screen of all the mountains. There are some physical processes in Europe that, along with the mountain barriers, ocean currents, that affect the climate in Europe. One of the currents is the North Atlantic Drift, also known as the Gulf Stream that warms Western Europe. It also picks up moisture from the Atlantic Ocean and dumps it on places like London and Dublin, so that's why they have a lot of rain. Mountain barriers block colder air from the north so that doesn't get into Mediterranean countries. That's why part of the reason why they're warmer. They also block moisture. So when you saw that satellite map earlier, they keep the Mediterranean countries drier. Okay, on your notes. The mountains in Europe kind of separate everybody culturally. They form barriers. That's why early on in times, if there wasn't a river connecting them, they didn't have a lot to do with each other, and they developed very different cultures. Okay, so here we go. The Alps separate Italy from the rest of Europe. Pyrenees separate Spain and Portugal from France and Northern Europe. The Apennines separate Western and Eastern Italy. And the Balkans separate the Balkan states from the rest of Europe, and quite frankly, they're kind of glad about that. Hey, there's a picture of the Alps. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. They're very steep. They're rugged, like they go straight up, literally. There's Mount Blanc in the Alps. That's the highest peak. Okay, some other things that affect climate in Russia specifically. The fact that they're at such high latitudes makes the climates look colder. The fact that these places in the center of Russia, right here, are so far away from a big body of water. Continentality, being far away from water that moderates your temperature, affects that region specifically. So Siberia, those locations that get really cold in the winter, but then in the summer they defrost and they get mosquito swarms. Okay, there are drier climates in Central Asia, those places like Kazakhstan, because they're distant from warm waters. Okay. In Europe, the Alps have a much harsher climate because of their altitude. It's a really good picture. You can see that in that example. Snow in one portion of it and green valleys below. Okay, the Caucasus Mountains we did in Russia, so we're not going to talk about them a whole lot. Hey, you are about to watch a video over Switzerland, and I'll ruin chocolate for you today. Here we go with Switzerland. There's only 2 questions in the video. Take special note of the chocolate factories because that's what I was going to ruin for you today just to make your day since I'm not here. Here you go.
Switzerland is located in Central Europe. It is bordered by France to the west, Germany to the north, Austria and Liechtenstein to the east, and Italy to the south. Switzerland is a small country, just a little larger than the state of West Virginia. Its physical geography is dominated by the Alps and Jura Mountains. Bern, the capital, is located in the west central region. The primary language in Bern is German, but most Swiss people speak other languages, including French, Italian, and English. They also speak the language of chocolate. Chocolate starts with the beans of the cacao tree. South American Indians first used the beans to make a bitter drink. Conquering Spaniards tried the drink, sweetened it with cinnamon and vanilla, and introduced it to Europe. Francois Louis Callier.
Notice those machines. Look how clean they look. Not really.
The first bar of chocolate. His factory is still in use today.
Look at that pipe.
In
Yummy.
1876, Daniel Peter, a Swiss candle maker and entrepreneur, and baby food manufacturer Henri Nestlé, invented milk chocolate, used today in most candy bars.
Maybe you'll see an Oompa Loompa.
The Swiss eat more chocolate per person than anyone else in the world. On average, 27 pounds a year.
Every time I see this video, I think of Forrest Gump, or not Forrest Gump, but Willy Wonka.
Making it an important part of their economy, in addition to its important place in Swiss history.
Next time you're with me, we'll talk a little bit more about the history, but Transylvania is a region in the Carpathian Mountains. It's where the legend of Dracula started. It was actually based on a real guy, Vlad. Count Vlad, he had a reputation for being rather brutal, so we'll talk about him along with some of the nursery rhymes that have history in them. Obviously, you know that the Urals divide Europe from Asia. There's some pictures of the Ural Mountains. You're only going to label one plain. It's probably the most important physical feature in all of Europe for lots of reasons, both historically and agriculturally. Most of the grains in Europe are grown somewhere on the northern European plain that stretches all the way into Russia. It also is a place that people were easily able to migrate from one region to the next. And so there's a lot of mixing of cultures, especially as you get into Eastern Europe in this area. A lot of people settled there from different regions. That may explain some of their ethnic differences and conflicts. It's also the place that Russia is very paranoid about because both times that they have been invaded, that people have come from the northern European plain. It's a very easy way to get into Russia. That's the way Napoleon marched from France. That's the way Hitler brought the troops in. He first took over Poland and launched his attack into Russia from the northern European plain. Luckily for the Russians, neither one of those men were very smart in terms of how they chose to try and conquer Russia. They both tried it in the winter, and they both failed. Okay. Some physical factors about the northern European plain: it's very flat, it's very fertile, it has that Chernozem soil on it, that really dark, rich soil. A lot of natural resources grown on the plain. It's great for agriculture, and like I said before, it was a major source for people to get into and out of countries. Migration was a big deal. Okay? Obviously, the only plain we labeled is the northern European plain. It's one of the most fertile regions in the world. In your notes, that question asks you, how has the plain brought danger because of its low elevation and allowed invasions from other countries? Okay? Your next video will be about France. Predominantly, it's about Napoleon and his takeover of France, not once, not twice, but 3 times. In fact, in the video, you only see it twice. Second time he ruled France, he only ruled for 100 days. You think they would have learned and exiled him? Instead of exiling him to an island, they would have maybe eliminated him permanently, but they didn't. So the video is mostly about Napoleon. Have those questions or your notes out and be ready.